edition of Fail Forward Fridays.
Yep.
With me, Malesela
Roche Mawabulo.
And yeah, this week we promise to be giving really interesting stories, a bit different from what we did last week, but nevertheless, we will learn how to fail forward.
Yeah. So it's another week, different stories.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
So who goes first? You go first.
I will go first.
All right.
I will go first. It's fine.
So the rule is you start with your story, I then come with my story, and then we compare the notes.
Yes.
Awesome.
All right. So
yeah.
This week I'll be talking about Nokia. We all know Nokia.
Does it still exist?
It actually does.
Okay.
Funny enough, it actually does. But listen, the amount of the surges that these guys have tried to come back again and again and again. They tried this, they tried that. When we talk about strategies and strategies that just didn't fail, that either failed or came too late, that's one of the things you're going to discover about Nokia. It's funny enough, not a lot of people know where Nokia probably comes from, but even how it started, when it started. So yeah, let me start. So Nokia was founded in 1865. And by a gentleman called Frederick Idestam. And at the time, they were a pulp mill when they started this. And when they started it, they then went into many other things. In fact, they named it Nokia after the Nokia River in Finland. So they started, over the century after that, they did a whole lot of things. From rubber, they did cables, they did electronics eventually. And by the 1960s and 70s, Nokia was involved in production of telecommunications equipment. Now, obviously, this is 1960s, 1970s. And before that, after that, they hadn't started with the mobile side. I think they went into the mobile industry in the 1970s. That's when they brought out their first mobile phone. But at the time, they were still diversified as the whole company used to be as well. What then happened is they had their first breakthrough in 1992 when they came up with the first in 1992 when they came up with their first GSM
smartphone.
Not phone in general.
Oh.
So at the time, obviously, phones were big and everything.
Yes,
and
the bricks.
The first phone they produced was in 1987. And that one was quite big. It was heavy. It was expensive. It wasn't mass produced. It was for the luxury of people that could afford them. But then the one in 1992, it was the first mass produced GSM one. And then obviously that's when things, because they started focusing. And at the time, and you'll hear the story, Doc, is a lot of, it has a lot to do with how you come out of focus. Once you don't focus, what then happens? Now, in this sense, they focused only on mobile and they grew. But in them focusing, they became so big that they became Lexi-Daisy. And in them being Lexi-Daisy, what then happened was they got to a stage where they became, they didn't do as much as they used to back then when they were still small. So I'll give you an example of why I say that. So it says here, in 1990s to early 2000s, Nokia became synonymous for mobile phones only. It produced, its products were known for their durability, long battery life, and user-friendly interface. I mean, we all remember the most famous Nokia. We're all gonna say is that the 10, where you had
the
snakes,
snake one. Yes.
You had snakes, you had space impact. Yes. I still remember the first time I got my hands on a phone on Nokia 3310. It had space impact, and it was my cousin's, my uncle's one. And I remember playing Space Impact, going up, shooting. It was amazing, dog. It really was amazing. It was revolutionary. Let me put it that way. And what actually led to them becoming so big and so good at what they did is that they focused a lot of money and a lot of focus on R&D and in innovation and everything else. The durability. I mean, like I said, I still remember the first phone without an aerial. For me, it was the Nokia. Yes. You know what I mean? They came up with clever things like that. They were so innovative.
To think of it, when you think about it now, it was quite innovative. I mean, it sounds mundane now, like all phones don't have aerial.
Yeah.
But I mean, moving from an aerial to no aerial, it was a big thing.
Exactly. I mean, back then you had your Ericssons, you had your, and all of these guys had aerials. But when Nokia came with the non-aerial one, the first color screen as well.
Yes.
I mean, they came up with the first color screen. Like, they were so innovative. It's actually sad to see how far they went down.
Yeah.
But in any case, so they did a lot of R&D. That's what made them so good. In fact, at a stage, at their peak, they had a 40%. In 2003, by 2003, get this, by 2003, they had captured over 40% of the global mobile phone market. 40%.
Sure.
So it's
Global
market. Global market. So I'm sure by far they were the biggest. You know, because I mean, when you think globally with all these Ericssons, Motorola's, whatever, those guys were free when it came to Nokia. 40% of the world was using it. That's huge, right? And I mean, that's where it kind of like was at its peak, and I guess that's where comfort settled in for them. Now let's go towards their fall. How they fall. So they stopped innovating. I mean, the very thing that they actually started doing, they stopped doing a lot of. They became so lackadaisy with the fact that they had so much market. Funny enough, we know the Bible verse that in Proverbs that says, pride comes before a fall, and I could see it in me when I was doing the research on Nokia to say that 2003 they were at its peak. And here comes these guys in jail, just coming slowly but surely, right? Like your Apples were starting to think about the iPhone at the time.
BlackBerry.
You know, Blackberries were starting to be a thing now as well. Touchscreen phone, funny. And okay, let me actually not get ahead of myself quickly. So it says here, despite the dominance, Nokia became complacent. And that's what I was saying, right? The company failed to recognize the significance of smartphone revolution that was on the horizon. When Apple launched its iPhone in 2007, it redefined the mobile phone market. Now, I want to stop here and kind of like talk to this whole scene around now. It's 2007, and here comes these guys that never done a phone. In fact, the closest thing they come to a phone is an MP3 player called an iPod, right? Yeah. And they come in there and they release this iPhone, and it's like hoorah, right? I can't imagine what they're thinking now as Nokia. In my head, I think at the time it was before they had the Engage and all those other stuff. I think they had still had that. There was a phone. So, Doc, I used to be such a fan of Nokia. I won't even lie. Like, my first phone was a Nokia.
I think so many people.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, I had this. I think it was a 53 or 5270i. Still remember the curves and everything. It was so good. It was such a nice
Sounds
phone.
like you still love it even now.
Yeah, Doc, it was my first phone. You know, at the age of 14.
Okay.
That was my first phone. And I remember what used to happen with my dad would always buy a new phone every 2 years, so the contracts and everything. And I would take his old phone. But I mean, even then, you were still kind of like, it was still nice to have the phone. There was this 5570 as well that I used to have that my dad gave me. It was the first phone, one of the first phones to do video. But it could only do like a 5-second video. But it was still like, I mean, it was a bulky phone like this or whatever. And it had like the buttons at the bottom with a big screen, and you could record for 5 seconds, whatever. I still remember you could record videos, but it didn't even have sound. You couldn't record sound. Like, yeah, I've come so far. This is actually touching me now that I speak about it.
No, your baby must not hear this story. What is Daddy talking about?
Exactly. I mean, now, looking at what what phones are now. But in any case, so funny enough, this is 2007. These guys come up with iPhone now. In that time, we see what I was actually wanted to say is actually Apple. I mean, we can say what we want to say. Nokia actually blundered because they actually had one of the first touchscreen phones. No one actually knows about this phone, but in 2007, 2004, the first touch, it was called the 7710, Nokia 77 smartphone in 2004. It was released on 2 November 2004. Now, you had from November 2004 to 2007, 3-year head start. Sure. And you don't push as good because you probably thought to yourself, oh, I've made it. People go by what we do. Honey, you actually get people out there that don't care what you do, but care about what people would appreciate.
So they put the writing on the wall and they ignore their own writing.
Exactly. And I guess maybe that's the testament of Apple and your Samsungs is that they thought bigger than what the on the writing on the wall is. They thought the writing of the wall is what are people saying? You know, are people too comfortable? Okay, we need to change things up because if people are comfortable, it's easy for someone to come and disrupt me.
It reminds me of Kodak. And we'll talk about it because Kodak is a similar story. Steven Sesson gets employed by Kodak.
Yes.
And he's some engineer guy, gets employed by Kodak. And remember Kodak back in the day? I don't know if you remember this. So back in the day, you take a video, it's those.
Yes.
In the
tape, yes.
Yeah. And so Kodak was making more money. So what they did is, like with printers, right?
Yeah.
So you have a home printer. It's actually quite 1,000 something. You get a home printer, 1,000 something, right?
Yeah.
And then you print, you're done. And next thing the cartridge is finished. And then you go buy the cartridge. The flipping thing is $400. Like, how is it that this is 1,005 and the cartridge is $400, $500? And then it's like, oh, so the business model is they make this cheaper and they make more money from the cartridge. So Kodak, same thing, right? So because people are complaining about the device, that the device is expensive, blah, 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 back in the day.
Yes.
They said, no, okay, fine. We'll make the device affordable, but we'll make money from the films.
And they made money.
Yeah. They made lots of money from the films. Steven Sesson gets employed. Within 2 months, goes to the board. He's got this digital camera.
Yes.
Before that, he goes with his kid to Disney, take pictures with his kid. The kid wants to see the picture immediately.
Yes.
And then they just said, no, we have to go develop the negative, what.
Oh, yes.
So the kid's like, but why can't I have the picture now? I took the picture, I want to see it now.
Yes.
Right? And that's when the idea popped. Okay, maybe we should find a way. You know those cameras where you take a picture and then the
digital.
Picture comes,
Yes.
and then you like this?
Oh, yes.
So he devises something like that, but it's bulky and clunky. You know
but
our technology,
start.
like the phones, like it's bulky and clunky. You have to put it on the thing.
Yes.
Gets onto the board, Kodak board.
Yes.
And it says, here's the feature of film.
Yes.
Right? And then he shows this bulky thing. Take a picture, it comes out immediate. The boss says, what? Then what's going to happen? Because we're making money from the films.
Yes.
Now, if you do this, we're not going to make money. We're not going to sell films.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, take that scary thing away. We're going to make money from this thing. And then he left.
Yeah.
And then they shelved it. They shelved it, and we know what happened.
Missed opportunity.
Digital camera became the future. They missed it. They saw it.
They missed it.
And they missed it.
Yeah. So that's exactly with them.
Uh-huh.
And that's exactly why, I guess that's why you mentioned it, is that these guys had one of the first touch screens, and yet they did nothing with it.
Yeah.
They did not develop it from there. R&D kind of like slowed down. They were still developing, but they were developing from their own mindset instead of from a problem-solving point of view.
It's quite interesting. I mean, they call it the hubris. It's hubris. It's comfort. They're comfortable.
Yes.
But it's quite interesting when you say that. I remember a story of Elon Musk when they were doing the PayPal.
Yeah.
So there was Musk who was doing a payment gateway.
Yes.
And then there was Peter Thiel.
Yes.
Peter Thiel was also
PayPal.
He's with his buddy doing a similar payment gateway. And what this guy says, because when you read 0 to 1, Peter Thiel, and he says, no, in one of his interviews, he says, they were asking him how he got to meet Musk and work together. And he says, there was this guy, right? We were working on the payment gateway, and we heard at Silicon Valley that there was this other guy who's also doing the same thing.
Yes.
Right? And it's like, okay, it's on. It's a race, right? So they started developing. And for some whatever reason, they'll hear what he's doing.
Yeah.
And they realize, flip,
That's
this guy is ahead.
Yeah.
Because Musk never slept. I mean, he slept under the table.
Yeah,
Wake
I know.
up,
Musk
work,
was
work, work,
Musk.
work. So he pushed. And it's like, oh, this guy is ahead. And they work, right? Because they need to catch up.
Yes.
And they eavesdrop, somehow find a way. And they realize, oh, he's pushing ahead. They were like, there's no way we're going to catch this guy.
Yes, let's go.
Let's go talk to him and see if we can collaborate. So it's kind of like, that's what these companies do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They eavesdrop on each other's
Yes.
work. And they want to see, oh, so you edit this thing on
It makes
LCD,
sense
whatever.
why someone would do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to be left alone. Behind. So I'm going to do the same thing. So you can sort of say Samsung and Apple
Yes.
or Huawei or whatever. They check each other's work to make sure that they don't get left behind.
Funny thing you mentioned that, right? Because as soon as the smartphone came out, like the first smartphone, Apple smartphone, when that came out, the rage was around, okay, touch screen. Because then they brought out all these other touch screens. I mean, Nokia brought out their first touch screen in like after the one that they had originally got. I think their first one was called 5230. And that came out, I want to say 2008, 2008, a year after or so, after Apple. Because obviously Apple at the time was the big craze now, right? People were going all about Apple this, Apple that. Then obviously Samsung also came in. Now at the time as well, there were only, each person had their own operation system. BlackBerry had their own, Nokia had their own. In fact, and Nokia's one was so rugged and complex. In fact, that's part of the reason why Nokia didn't succeed eventually, was because their operation system was never it went from being usable, and it went from that to not usable in a sense of developing apps, because only they could develop the apps. Now, when Apple came out, they brought out this whole thing of, oh, here's a platform, go build apps for this iPhone. And Android at the time was also starting. That's when, what is that other phone company? There's a phone company that came out and they were using Android, and then a few other companies before Samsung really came out as well.
Not Motorola. There was Motorola, there was Ericsson.
I'll tell you, it's one something, man. But also they basically, it wasn't OnePlus or whatever. It's not Asus, but it doesn't matter. But they then was using this Android now, and the ability, what made Android also very powerful was that it was open source, and Apple obviously gave you the toolkit to do Apples as well. So they were this mammoth of a company that had the funds to do that, right? Now, these two, Google and Apple, are pouring money into development of applications, and there's this new craze, smartphone, build an app. This is build a digital, other digital platforms on your phone, everything on your phone. And Nokia was still Nokia, and they were still comfortable. And they were, I think, they then realized, and they started doing everything. And they were like, nope, we will not, when other phone companies started going onto Android, for instance, because I mean, it was then only on Android and Apple. What happened was that they did not want to go. I mean, they denied. They were like, no ways are we gonna do that. I think the name of the OS that Nokia was using was called Symbiosis or whatever, whatever it was called. And they did not want to actually go and develop for Android. And they, for a long time, eventually they said, okay, we'll rather even go to Windows. That's when they partnered up with Windows in the 2010s there. And then that failed dismally. They then said, you know what, Windows buy us out. I think 2013, 2014, then Windows bought them out.
So is this the same story where the CEO, when he was giving a report back to the shareholders, said something along the lines that we did everything right, but we still lost? And then he cried. Is it? I think it's the same guy.
I think it was actually funny enough, because yes, it is.
Yeah. But
the problem is they did not do something right.
Well, I mean, for them, right is we have been doing this, it's been working.
Yes.
So it's right.
Yeah,
But
I get.
mean, they forget that outside the environment is changing. So what's right today stops being right tomorrow.
So that's exactly what I wanted. That's one of the points I wanted to mention is that the biggest problem I had about them as well, with Nokia, how everything was, is that they realized they were very reactive.
Yeah.
They were very, very active. None of what they were doing was proactive because, first of all, you building on top of a operation system that it's rugged. It's not user friendly. People can't build for it, you know. And then eventually you go to someone like Windows that still has to start from the beginning, if I could say, with their OS. You're already too late to the party because most phone companies are only use Samsung. I mean, at the time they were going into Galaxy, and the rage was on Galaxy. And one of the things they mentioned, which was brilliant, was that Samsung did not have to worry. The reason Samsung and all these other phone companies that build on Android were so successful is that they did not have to build on software. They only had to build hardware for the software that was coming out. And that is what made them so good, right? So quickly. Now, you coming with your new operation system with Windows, that's not going to work out because you need to get people to build for it. Yeah. People are already building for something that's already a success. They mentioned, Charlie Munger mentioned something like they rode the wave. Whenever you ride a wave, stay in that wave until it is slow enough for you to leave it. And the problem is, it was when the wave was only getting stronger, and these guys were riding. Samsung and everyone was riding on this wave, and you could choose multiple phones that used one operation system, all user friendly. Apple was Apple. You can never go against Apple. You know what I mean? So that's what made them. Eventually, when they got onto the bandwagon of Android, they were already too late onto the bandwagon. I think that's when he did mention that we tried to do everything right, because they went onto Android eventually, but the Android that they tried to use was too late to come onto that bandwagon because all these Huawei and everyone was already in. So whatever you were producing, people had already had them. You want to come in with a 100 megapixel phone, people already have that. They don't need a 100 megapixel phone because the young technology and things of Nokia as a fossil. You know, and that's the other problem, is that you're building for people, or Malesela, that used to love you, but they've gotten over you because someone gave them an iPhone right out. I mean, that's literally what happened to me. I was using an N8. It was my first actually, it was my first brand new phone. Yeah. I had an N8. I remember, I fought with my mom to get that phone, and eventually I got it. Doc, I'm not even lying. 4 months later, someone gave me an iPhone as a present. Never turned back since. 2008.
Once you go iPhone, you can't go back.
It was late for me.
There's a joke that a guy can't disrespect you twice. He can't disrespect by shelling your women, and he's using an Android. Like how disrespectful? At least if you shell my woman, use an iPhone.
Yeah.
So but it's the same thing that happened with BlackBerry, isn't it? I mean, BlackBerry with a touch screen. For a very long time, when touchscreen came out, a lot of BlackBerry actually did very well with the BBM.
Yes.
A lot of people loved that platform, and it was cheap. I think it was 69
rand. I remember.
People loved it, and you have a whole month subscription.
Yeah.
I think people bought it because of BBM.
Yes, right? It is. Students,
it was affordable, right? And I don't know if you remember, there was a whole global shutdown. There was a time where there was a whole global shutdown. And it was such a funny thing, you know. But anyway, touchscreen came out. Obviously, Apple was leading, and then Samsung. Yeah. And then people were like, and these two didn't have BBM.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And people were like, I love BBM, but I love the touchscreen concept. Why? And they started pleading with BlackBerry to develop devices with touchscreen and keep the BBM, because BBM was working.
Yes. That was a selling point.
Yeah, that was a selling point. And BlackBerry says, no. You love BIS, BBM. So we are not changing the device. We'll improve the device. We'll make it bulkier. Maybe we'll make the screen bigger, but it will still have buttons.
Sure.
People say, no, but we don't want touch screen. We don't want buttons. You know, they say, no, but you're okay with buttons.
Yes.
And then WhatsApp came into these other devices.
It was Apple. I remember because Apple didn't have that.
Yes,
at
it
the
didn't
time.
have that platform. So WhatsApp came in. People were like, okay, I love the touch screen. The closest I can get to is a WhatsApp.
Yes.
Right. And they moved. They shifted from BlackBerry to other Samsung
platform.
By the time BlackBerry decided they're releasing their devices with touch screen, the market is gone. Right? No one is using BIS anymore.
Yeah.
Everybody's now moved to
Samsung and Apple.
Samsung, Apple, and WhatsApp.
Yes.
Right. And the WhatsApp calls were cheaper as well. And that was curtains for BlackBerry. And I think this is what I'm picking all the time. If you are the top 4, the top 2, it's like a marathon.
Yes.
You have to stay with your people as they are developing a new thing. You need to stay within them. Because if you get left behind, it's gonna be very difficult to catch.
You know what you're saying now is so true, because I think of how, and I'm seeing it with Apple. Now, what I want to say, when VR headsets came out, Apple just let it go.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that Apple let people do, but then they came in and they just took the market. AirPods, they were Bluetooth headsets, but they came in and they just took over. App watches. Samsung made the watch before Apple did it. And what happened? Apple just came in to go. But one of the things that hurt Apple, and I saw it now with the opening, with the AI stuff, they really fell behind because everyone under the sun was talking about AI doing that, and Apple was just quiet. And you'd think Apple came out and they was like, no, they just basically they're partnering up with OpenAI and all this other stuff. And it worries me that they too, for a long time, thought we're untouchable.
Yeah. Yes.
And when people said AI, they should. Everyone was doing it. Google has obviously always been there. But, Amazon came in, they were like, we're playing it AI. Meta came in, AI. And Apple was just quiet. And people were like, dude, you need to say something. Their share price was going down. At the time, they couldn't even produce the Apple Watch Pro anymore because of that whole thing that they were doing. Like, it was everything. I feel like they really fell behind on that.
Yeah, and I think it's the same thing that, if the pace of change outside is faster than the pace of change inside, the end is near.
Yes. Yeah. Just on the last thing, and then we can move on to yours. I think we spent enough time on mine.
Yes.
Nokia actually then pivoted. They actually pivoted. They sold off of the mobile side to Windows. They pivoted to making telecommunication 5G, 4G, and everything else. And at least they failed forward. They didn't just lie on their morals.
It's a painful story, though.
Really
from being a glorious, thing that introduced us to phones, to being a non-existent player. Yeah.
And a lot of them actually, if you go into the mobile, is actually very cutthroat.
Yeah.
Your Motorola's they fell away. Your Ericsson's fell away.
So it's as if you need to plan. It's like ahead.
Yes.
Plan for the new releases every 18 months.
Yes.
So it's the whole.
You already have something in mind while you already testing the one you'll produce. You'll be producing in 2 years' time.
In fact, that's what they say, that they already know what's coming as they are releasing this now.
Yes.
They already know what's coming in 2 years' time.
Yes. The only thing that again, I'm going back to Apple. Apple is a bit slower because these phones are the same every year.
No.
And we love it, but
I think the curve is now marginal utility.
Yes.
Like the more they release, the curve is not because it's pretty much so. There are areas of disruptive technology that or industries, for instance. Some people will argue that the medical sector is not really being disrupted.
True.
Right.
True.
And if you look at where the most disruption happened is in technology, in terms of mobiles, but also in military. Like the Americans with new technology, they've pushed far ahead. The law fraternity is struggling. It's always like
that's true.
A fossil.
That is true.
And now we'll see with all these AI languages coming in.
Disrupting the law industry.
Yes, the law industry, because it's being
Yeah, large language models are literally there too.
They're getting there. So it sounds to me like going forward, if you are not at the forefront with the pack, it's going to be very difficult to catch up.
Yeah.
It's going to be very difficult. And if you fall behind, you might as well look for something else to do.
That's true.
Because it's getting faster and faster.
Yes.
Actually, the pace is getting fast. I mean, look at when AI tools, ChatGPT came out, 2022, towards the end.
Not even.
Right?
ChatGPT was always 2021 already.
2021.
But it wasn't as out there as.
Yes. And there was a time where, I mean, it trended for almost a whole.
I think it got like 100 million in like 2 weeks. So it was the fastest growing something.
Right? Yeah. And ever since then, how the change has been so exponential.
Yeah.
Right? But who's this? Is it Microsoft?
Yes.
Or is it Google with Gemini?
Oh, Gemini, yes. Google.
Yeah,
yes.
Google. They like 1, 2, and 2. The next thing, Google have their own.
Yes.
Right?
Claude came out and all these other ones.
And now I don't know how many languages we have. AI tools we have. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I keep on hearing this, right? But the first 2 ones have set the pace.
Yeah.
And
they need to keep on setting the pace.
They've set the pace.
Yes.
Because already we know only of those. Of course, there are others. And chances are they're even better.
Yes.
But the fact is that the first 2 ones are way ahead.
Actually, Doc, you must use this other one. I know you use Gemini or ChatGPT. There's one called Claude. Brilliant. Amazing.
Right?
Really good.
Right? But not everybody knows it.
Yes.
If you talk AI tools,
ChatGPT.
Unless if you are in a tech space, you are
true. That's actually
But
true.
if a non-tech person, it's this true.
Just
it's quite interesting. My daughter knows this too.
Is the Colgate of Aquafresh?
Okay, I'll check it out. Okay.
Next, yes.
My story. So we moved from tech to financial services.
Okay, all right.
And I mean, when this story broke out, I was following it, like when 9/11 happens, and you're following the story as it breaks out.
Yes.
So there's this guy in the UK called Nic Leeson. Nic Leeson is this young guy, smart, brainiac, right? Gets employed by Barings Bank, one of the oldest banks in the world, right? Barings Bank in the UK. I think Queen Elizabeth had a bulk of her savings in the Barings Bank. So you've got this young genius guy who's now going to get in, and he's a young trader, traded in financial instruments, derivative instruments, blah, blah.
Quant.
All this, all this, weird instruments. So he gets in there, he's a young guy, and smart, very smart, and he starts putting bets and starts putting all this trading, right? Because when you trade in financial instruments and derivatives and all these things, you are actually even anticipating. So you're basically saying, this instrument, this thing is $100 today.
Yes. I can predict that.
And I think it's going to be 200 in 2 months.
Because of
this. But I want to hedge. So I'm going to buy an instrument that will say I can only buy this at 100 Rand, even though the price in 2 months' time is 200, right? But at least I fixed my price, my purchase price of this instrument at 100 Rand.
Sure.
Right. So it's similar to people who they take out a home loan.
Yeah.
And then they decide whether they want a variable interest rate or they want a fixed.
Okay.
So when you decide I'm fixing my interest rate on my bond, you are basically saying even if the interest rate is going to go high than your fixed rate, you are only going to pay the fixed rate.
Sure.
So that's an instrument. That's a financial instrument.
Sure.
Right. So so a derivative is something that comes out of
derived from
so it's derived from so that's what he was doing. So they have all these derivative instruments where they were putting hedges and bets against the future, and he was making lots of money. So he would take some instruments and fix the price, and then it goes up. And if it goes up against the price,
you get
that increase. It's a profit.
Yes.
Right. But if you fix it and then it goes below that
then
price, it's a loss.
Yes.
Right. So it's like a complex thing, right? So he gets into that. He's smart, very smart. Gets into that, start buying financial instruments, derivative instruments, blah, 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 blah. And he makes lots of money at the beginning. Makes lots of money.
When is this?
It was in the 80s, late 80s.
Okay.
1990 rather.
Yeah.
1990. Yeah. So he starts initially making profits, right? And the bosses, because now he's making profits, they say, he's smart. So they trust him with more responsibilities. He gets promoted, trust him with more responsibilities, right?
Yeah.
And then starts making losses, right? So he starts making losses, but because he's now at the higher level, he starts passing journal entries to hide those losses, right? Because his thinking is, so it's like pretty similar like interest rate. I fix it at 15 and it goes higher than 15. So I'm making losses, right? But maybe something will happen, it will go below. And when it goes below, you're then able to offset the loss with the profit that you're making. And then it zeroes out, right? So that's his logic.
Yeah.
So he creates a suspense account, 9999. I think something like 9999.
Yeah.
So he takes all the losses, he hides them under that suspense account. Nobody checks the book because they trust him.
Yeah, I can value. He's been making money for them. Yeah.
Millions for the bank. So he opens a suspense account, 9999, whatever, puts the losses there, right? And then he's like, in future, the profits will offset the losses. No one will know.
Sure.
Right? Sure. Makes the losses, hides, nobody checks. Hides, nobody checks. Then there was an earthquake in Hong Kong. And some of the Hong Kong investors put their money in Barings Bank. Right? Remember Hong Kong belonged before 1990 or something. It was under
the English.
Yeah, under the English as part of the Opium Wars. Opium Wars back then. Because then, it's like China owed England some money because they were buying opium. So they were buying opium. So and then because they owed England money, they gave them Hong Kong.
Right? That's why Hong Kong is what it is. Very English.
Yes, it's very English because it used to belong to the Brits. And of course, 1990 the debt was paid, and then Hong Kong had to go back. But before that, a lot of the guys had lots of money invested in Barings Bank. So there's an earthquake hits in Hong Kong. Boom. Right? And then people are fleeing because now when there's a disaster, whether it's the Twin Towers, whatever, people disinvest. Right?
Because they want to make sure that they've
got their investments with them. So out of the blue, this guy was hiding his losses nicely, no problem. Earthquake hits in Hong Kong. Now people are disinvesting. They disinvest in Barings Bank.
And this is money, big money.
They disinvest. Boom, there's no money. They check suspense account losses. Losses. Like, back in then it was like 1 billion US in 1990. It was a lot of money. Right? The whole bank had to go under. The whole bank.
Because of one incident.
Earthquake. So it's kind of interesting because then it says, it's one of those things where you do something wrong. Right? And you're able to get away with it. Right? No one finds out. Right? So there's this whole thing. One of my favorite professors, Clay Christensen, would always say, he calls it, I'll do it just this once. And no one will find out. And then I will not do it again.
Slippery slope.
Just this once. And no one will find. So you already find a way of how I'm going to hide this thing. And, I promise myself, I'll never do it again. Right? So he did it just this once. And he never got caught. And it's like, okay. So no one realized, no one picked it up. I can do it again. And no one will pick it up. Right? And again, no one will pick it up. Until something outside your control. And probably no one would have picked it up until something outside of control happens. And boom, something somewhere in another country happens. And then it affects you. And then boom, right?
It reminds me.
And the whole Pandora box is open and disaster affects it. Then he flees. Because he can see now. They don't understand why the books are not balancing.
Then
he flees. He tries to look for this guy. He flees to Malaysia and then Thailand. He's on the run. Takes the girlfriend. Boo, pack our bags. Right? It's brilliant light now. He gets caught in Germany. Extradited back to England. Found guilty. Spent some time there. Smart guy. So obviously there's that principle that it's never justice once.
Yes.
It's never justice.
Yes.
If you can do it once and get away with it, human nature says you will do it again.
Because
if you got away with the first time, you're gonna ask yourself, oh, okay, I killed one person, nobody saw. 5 years down the road, I can do it again.
Yeah.
And no one will find out.
Yeah.
And unbeknown to you that something out random will happen, and the whole thing gets out. But I think also because no one checked on him, no one checked on his work, they trusted him. And if you look at most of these banking scandals, where a guy is able to, if you read up on, maybe we'll talk about this on Solama Hobe's story.
Oh yes,
right,
yes,
with
yes,
Malesela,
yes,
right?
Same
thing. Snowy, no one checked out.
Yes.
Who is she giving loans to? And
taking
no one
people to
checked.
FA Cup.
Yes, check the whole Mamelodi Sundowns, girlfriends, whatever, wife. We are going
with one rent only.
Yeah. So no one checked on Snowy until it was too late, and they realized had no one checked up on her, chances are, if it was not because of Snowy's friend who was jealous, because she ratted them out.
What a snitch! Yeah.
If it was not because of her, chances are
they would have gotten away with it.
They would have gotten away with it, right? And it happens because Snowy thought, we did it once, no one caught us. We can do it again, no one will catch us. And they did that for a very long time, to a point where Zola Mahobe had money to take the whole Sundowns team to England. No one, even then,
no one caught
them, right? Yeah. It was just some random person. No, whether you don't want to borrow me money to buy clothes in England, so you don't want to borrow me clothes, I'm gonna write on you. Like, now you're entitled to my money. Like, no, right? So Nic Leeson's thing was, no one will catch me. He obviously, when you're a derivative trader, you've got limits. Yes. So you can make losses, but you've got limits.
Yeah.
But he exceeded the limits. Because when
you exceed, of just saying, guys, I messed up.
I messed up.
What it is. Yeah.
He hates those.
Yeah.
Right. And I think also it's because he's a genius. He's a smart guy, so he thinks he can get away with it. Right. But I think also, you make a mistake, you come out. You say, I've made a mistake, guys. But for me, and this is quite an interesting. For me, Malesela, it says we have this thing that you're a smart A student. Jade is not too far from anyone.
Not at all. What happened now with what's that other guy? TX Sam Altman-Fried.
Oh yes.
Sam whatever his name is. The one from that with the not Bitcoin, but with the trading platform, or not trading, but that coins, whatever.
Bitcoins.
Bitcoin, what. He also.
Oh yes, Sam Altman-Fried. Yeah. He's looking at jail now.
He is.
He's in jail now.
They already sentenced him.
Yeah. But smart guy.
Very genius. Hair all over the place, whatever.
Yeah.
But
jail
comes before a fall.
Yeah, not true. And I think what I'm keep on learning is that there's genius and then there's principles.
True.
There's genius and there's principles.
Geniuses think that it doesn't work with principles.
Genius think they set the principles.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
And I think some principles are hard stone. You can't.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think for me, Nic Leeson's Branda is a smart guy. He could have been one of the best derivative traders in the world.
Yeah.
But maybe sometimes it's because also he was too young to get into that space.
I get you.
And be given that huge responsibility at that young age.
I get you.
And when he made a mistake, he didn't have the presence of mind to say, I've made a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes.
Yes.
And he can just report it. So
do you maybe know what his history is? So something I was actually talking to someone about yesterday. Like, where does it come from? Is it a poor family? Is it a good family? Is it because certain things happen because of where you come from?
Yeah, it's possible. I think he doesn't come from a well-off to-do family.
Yeah, because a lot of the time, one of the things it's just something I've been thinking about recently of how people don't regard the fact that coming from a poor family can make you act in a certain way, or a rich family, in fact, maybe for instance, let's say your dad was very strict and you never want to disappoint him, and that becomes who you are. Now, when you get into a place where they catch you, you think to yourself, these people must not catch me, so I'd rather not even say and be in trouble, because now he's thinking about his dad. And it just becomes a psychological thing that you took over the years. So
they say psychologists will always be in business because all of us have family trauma, one or another. So when you go to a psychologist, the first question they ask you is, tell me about your family. Because that's when they're going to pick up some...
Exactly.
Strict dad. This is the behavior.
Yeah.
Very lenient dad. So it's like they'll always make money.
Yeah.
You know? Upset dad. This. Abusive dad. This. So no, definitely. It's you can trace it back to family somewhere along the way. Which is
that's interesting.
Yeah. I haven't done the thing, but I'm definitely sure maybe in the next pod I will sort of check. Yeah.
Because it's always, especially from a place where it's an individual failure. Individual failures always are connected to someone's past.
It's a leadership blunder.
Yes. If you don't if you don't change it at the time, it becomes too late to do it. One of in last week's one, we were speaking about Warren Buffett. One of the things I loved about Warren Buffett is the fact that he knew when he was wrong enough to get someone else like a Charlie Munger in place, because that person then helped him to say, okay, no, dude, let's not do that. And he was clever enough to not say, I know better than you, I'm intelligent. Let's do it, you know.
And I think Warren, in a way, was mentored by his dad. Mentored by Benjamin Graham.
Ben Graham.
And later on, he partnered with Charlie Munger, who a lot of people don't give credit to.
Yeah.
He's also quite responsible for where Berkshire Hathaway is.
Yes. And a lot of it, in fact.
Yeah. So I think Warren has managed to surround himself with these people of integrity, smart people, and that's how he's able to steer out of trouble.
Yes.
Nic Leeson was by himself. He's a genius.
Young,
He's a young guy. He's by himself. He doesn't have people around him that are molding him, or are checking up on him, and he also doesn't have that outlook to say, I need help.
Yes.
Here's the situation. I've blundered. Please help me.
Yes.
But he thought he can clean up his own mess. Actually he got deeper into the mess.
There's you go deeper.
It's a house of cards.
Yes.
So it's a house of cards. So you build this thing. All it takes is just one cut at the bottom. The whole thing crumbles. And all it took was an earthquake somewhere else. Right? He had built this house of cards. All it took was one earthquake in another kind of foreign thing.
He wasn't, at that day, he wasn't even thinking about
No, he was sleeping. He wakes up. The earthquake was a huge thing. In Asia, earthquake.
Yes.
We all woke up to I mean, I remember that story because when I woke up, there was this thing making thing in Hong Kong. And,
Hey, dog, you're giving your age away.
No. I was young, but I was following the stories. I was young, but I was following the stories because I was reading up quite a lot on them and following them. But I found it interesting because I was interested in financial instruments at some point.
Okay. Well, you're in the financial ends. Yes, that's my game. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah. Interesting.
Is that the pod? Do we call it the pod?
Maybe just a last comment around what you learned, what
on him.
Yes, and I can just give my 2 cents.
So I think it's a moral thing. You're gonna make a mistake.
Yeah.
And own to it.
Yeah. Right? Learn to accept.
Learn that you have made a mistake. And the problem with geniuses is they have this. They don't want to be seen to have failed.
Yes.
Right.
Elon Musk.
Yeah, Elon Musk.
Yes.
But I think what I like with Elon is he's read up so much that he knows that chances
first
of
principles.
First principles. Yeah. And I think much as we might not necessarily say Elon has got a mentor, an active life mentor, but books have been his mentor.
Yes.
Because he's read up so many books.
Yes.
And all these authors have spoken to him.
Yes.
Directly or indirectly.
Yes.
Right. But own up to the mistake that you've made. And for me, the other thing is it's never justice once. It's never justice once. When you read up on most of the scandals, you see they Always.
Started
Was,
there.
they always say,
Yeah,
I'll do just this once.
Ish.
And it's never this once. You know, once you go down that road, it's like you can't be half pregnant, right? You're either pregnant or not pregnant. So a principle, you can't say I hold a principle 50% of the time.
Yes.
You either hold it 100% of the time or zero.
Yes.
Right? You can't say, do you take bribes? No, maybe 50% of the time I take. Or you're either you're either 100% principled or zero.
Might as well just go in and take all of them.
Exactly. So
they say if you're gonna do it big.
So if you're gonna hold a principle, you either hold it 100% of the time or you don't hold it at all. So, and I think what Nic thought, it's like, I'm a smart guy, I'm principled, I'm just gonna do this thing. Once you go down that road, there's no coming back.
Yes.
There's no. It's like a conscience, right?
Yes.
Once you do something, before you do it, your conscience is always stopping you, right?
Yeah.
It's always no, don't. But once you cross that side and you do it anyway, your conscience will not stop you the second time. How is it going to stop you? You have done it before.
Exactly.
You have done it before. How is it going to stop you the second time?
Yeah,
you have done it already.
Yeah.
So you have killed it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and now you continue to do it all the time.
Yeah.
You can't stop. And the next thing you know, it starts as a drop. The next thing you know, it's an ocean. You can't stop it, right? So I think for me, the principle that I always, when I sort of go through this is, if you tell yourself, I'm not going to go there, you don't go there.
Yes.
No matter how tempted. Because if you go there, it's a Rosemary story.
Yes.
You kill one person, you get paid off.
And it was nice.
And you start thinking, hey, and I was not caught, I'm going to do it again. The next thing you're a serial killer. You start recruiting other serial killers. Yes. But don't worry, I did it, no one caught me. I'll show you. Right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, my closing remarks on Nokia is that don't ever think you are too big. In fact, there was a saying, someone said it, I forgot who it is, but rather be number one and think you're number 10.
Yes.
Then be number one and think you're number one.
Yeah.
Because once you think that you're number one, you're always going to think at a standard that is. So if you're always chasing to be number one, you will always be innovative. Yeah. That's one thing I can say.
Jeff Bezos says always have a day one mentality. Always when you go to work, every day think this is the first day, we are excited, as if it's the first day.
Yes.
Awesome. That's the pod.
Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. And stay tuned for the next episode. Of
like, subscribe, comment.
Comment, please. Yes. Comment. We will read your comments, and it'll be interesting, actually, to get what you guys got from these episodes.
Yep.
Thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy it.